Welcome to Sports Scouts. I'm Joey Goodsir,
Michael Raupp,
and we are recording this, a very, very exciting new episode on Thursday, April 18th, 2019. The reason why we're so excited is because clearly nothing in the sports world happened. So, I don't know what we're going to talk about. This is going to be a very, very boring episode, to be honest. So I don't know why I said it was exciting. Oh, wait, I forgot. We're going to talk Tiger. We're going to talk hockey. We're going to talk Tiger. We're going to talk football, too. We're going to talk Tiger. We're going to talk basketball, and we're going to talk more. I don't know if I mentioned we're going to talk about Tigers. So
yeah, you're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell. But first, Michael, of course, will give you some scout scores.
Yeah, so congrats to the boys track and field team as they were crowned champions of the Cougar Relays on Saturday. They will be running relays in Palatine on Saturday. There is also an invite at home on the schedule. And Warren beat the boys baseball 6-1 on Tuesday. They play St. Viator tonight, and the boys lacrosse knocked off Glenbrook North 13-8 after a slow start on Friday. They play Mundelein at home tonight as well. The boys volleyball recently played first in the Lake County Invite. They played Lake Forest Academy and Warren as well this week and will play at Evanston on Monday. The girls track and field had a meet Tuesday at Zion Benton and will take on Libertyville at their place next Tuesday. Girls lacrosse played Libertyville last night. They will play Montini Catholic tonight. And girls soccer played Mundelein Tuesday. They will be at LFA tonight. For girls and boys water polo, the girls went to Glenbrook South last night. We'll play a quad at Maine. Maine West on Saturday. The boys were at Libertyville Tuesday night and will be at an invite at Glenbrook South. The boys tennis played New Trier last night and will be up against Prospect on Saturday. And girls softball played Libertyville Tuesday. We'll square off against Stevenson Monday. And we're getting towards the end here. Girls badminton went out to play Libertyville on Tuesday. They will play Oak Park tonight. Esports will be competing for a League of Legends state title in just 9 days down in Chicago. Make sure to check out their Twitter, LFHSE, to buy tickets and get more information. And lastly, Bass Fishing Team competed in their first tournament of the year on Saturday morning, so shout out to them.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff going on in LFHS sports. So thanks, Michael. That was some scout scores. As always, if you want more on the latest in LFHS sports, check out the latest articles on the4scout.com, such as the newest episode of The Dugout, of course. That's going to be a regular here. This week had Luke Listic. Boys volleyball coverage with Carter Horan. He talked about the Lake County invite that they won. Bobby Reinrunner had a Thursday 13 featuring Keen O'Connor that we did not mention that deserves to be mentioned, so make sure to check that out too. And there's always more on the4scout.com. If you didn't hear a sport you wanted to hear or we screwed up somehow, make sure you just send in the scores and informative news to sportscoutspodcast@gmail.com so Michael will give it a shout out. So let's not wait any longer here. Let's move on to national sports. And what we usually do here is show me what you got. And considering what happened since our last episode here, we decided probably would be best that we both have the same thing to just talk about right at the top of the show, because it's going to be something that we're going to want to get out of our system as quickly as possible because it's just too exciting.
Oh, definitely.
So it's pretty obvious what that is, but first check out this video real quick, and then we'll be back to talk about it.
The legend of this day will only grow. Tiger Woods has done it.
The return to glory.
He has won his 15th major championship and his 5th Masters, conquering more than a golf course and a field of acolytes to do it. He has suffered great pain, humiliation, and doubt, and let none defeat nor define him. That's the true measure of this victory.
Oh, my goodness.
He never quit. He could have easily exited stage left and built a new quiet life far from the spotlight he's occupied since he was a boy. He did not. And like he did so often when he and we were younger, he has won. We always knew Tiger would be remembered as the most dominant golfer of his era. But now he's something else too. Like Nicklaus in 1986, or Ted Williams in his final at bat. He's the rare man whose triumph offers hope that we too might reclaim a fleeting sun that is too often young once only. Maybe Earl Woods was right. Let the legend grow. You won't ever forget where you were today or who you were with as this moment grows in our imaginations and this image imprints on us forever.
Okay, so on Sunday, it was a crazy Sunday and probably, I mean, at least in my opinion, I don't know what you think, but I think probably one of the greatest comeback stories of all time. We just witnessed on Sunday, and Tiger Woods, after 11 years of not winning a major championship, finally came back and not only won a championship, but a major championship, but won the Masters, which is probably the major that he most identifies with, at least with fans. And
oh yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah, I think just being being at the lowest of lows where he was just a couple of years ago, I guess the injuries on the course, but of course all the problems he had off the course, which that's kind of what he's been known for these last couple of years, the stuff not on the course more or less. But I think it's just amazing how he could easily just have walked off, be one of the greatest golfers of all time, and just just hang up
totally could have quit,
hang it up, and so easily just walk away. And it wouldn't have hurt him to walk away because he's all the accolades he's collected along the way.
Right.
In his career, but to come back the way he did, that just shows the exceptionalism, I guess, of Tiger Woods, and just the pursuit to be to be the greatest, I guess, in his sport. And I think I wonder how many more he's gonna want to compete in after this.
Well, yeah, and
now being at the top of top of the world of the golf world again. I mean, how much longer do you think that he can keep this kind of up? I guess to keep on wanting to play golf. I guess.
Well, I think we're gonna talk about that going forward here in the second half of this segment here. But as far as right now, it's just absurd the crazy degree that this comeback is. We all love a good comeback story. I think that as a country we identify with redemption stories. I think that we find that best out of famous figures like Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is, I think, on his own level as far as fame because he's, solely transformed a sport. But this guy went from, off course, obviously, and that just adds to the degree of just, we talked about great comeback stories last week with Virginia.
Right.
Virginia lost a game to a team that they shouldn't have lost to. Tiger Woods lost his life, basically. Yeah. All of that. And then, just a couple years ago at the Champions Dinner at Augusta, where he's, Nick Faldo talked about this all the time, where he basically hobbled in and was pretty confident that he was never going to play golf again, and was just his goal was just to be able to have his back fixed enough where he could play golf with his kids or maybe be able to take his daughter to soccer practice or play golf with his son or whatever. It's absolutely insane that not only he's even playing golf professionally, no golfer who's ever there hasn't been a single golfer who has had the spine surgeries that he's had and come back.
I think he had 4 back surgeries.
Yeah,
right?
4 back surgeries. Nobody has that. I don't. Whatever they call the spine fusion thing. Whatever they call that.
Yep.
That surgery. Anybody who's had that,
from that,
nobody recovers from it. And not only did he actually recover where he could even play and walk a course, but he won something, and it was a major, and it was the Masters. It's just absolutely crazy. And I think that as far as on a wider level, this is one of the great stories, and I think in American culture, as far as just I don't remember the last time that so much of our country was so excited about one thing.
Right.
That's super cool considering all the things that divide us lately. I think that this kind of shows what's so awesome about sports, and sometimes sports do what the government and other things sometimes fail to do, which is many things, but one of those things every once in a while is bring us together. So we had to thank Tiger for that.
Yeah.
So
I guess he does for the sport of golf. It's just unprecedented.
Right, and he transformed the sport of golf, and that's the thing. The other thing that's impressive is the field he played against. No, the reason why this is so surreal, and it's literally, to me, it's literally unbelievable. Ever since it happened, I've been checking I've been checking every once in a while just to make sure I didn't dream the entire thing. And, I'm pretty sure, I don't remember who said this. Maybe it was like Skip Bayless or something. He's like, afterwards I tweeted it, and then I kind of tweeted it again, and I tweeted it a third time. He's like, I kept having to like reconsider the thought in my head, because it's just that it was just
so
that
surreal,
surreal
yeah.
to see him, wearing red on the 18th green, winning a green jacket.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And that's what's so crazy about it. But then you look at the field and how many good golfers, I don't think he even believed he could do this.
Oh, and the guys that were with him too, like the
guys that were with him.
After.
This is so different because he was never. I mean, in the first, there's so many cool differences and similarities, at least in my opinion, between old Tiger and the Tiger we saw on Sunday. With the old Tiger, the old Tiger was electrifying in that he was just so dominant and just destroyed everybody, and it was just basically him versus the game itself. And that's cool, and that was electrifying. And the downside to that was he was nobody's friend back then. I mean, he was just destroying everybody.
To win, yeah.
Right. And he was also he kind of took, even though he was electrifying to watch, he kind of took the position as golf's bully. I mean,
He's trying to bulldoze everyone away just to get the majors that he wanted. Yeah,
right, absolutely.
And he could easily do that.
He confidently did that. He was. Some considered him to be loud and obnoxious on the course. I mean, obviously he was pretty vocal. And then all of a sudden we see the version of him now where, basically everybody's competing against him. Grew up watching him and never have competed against him when he's good, and that's a whole different thing because they haven't experienced what a Tiger roar feels like.
Yeah.
Like that shot on the 16, that tee shot, like when that thing landed on the green, I'm pretty sure that everybody else in his group, when they heard what happened, they were like, "Oh my God, I have never heard a cheer like this at any tournament in my entire life." Like he
doesn't happen.
He transforms the sport, and that's what's so crazy. But as far as his game too. He's playing against those guys who, by the way, when Tiger was so good, all of a sudden all these athletic guys were getting handed golf clubs by their parents. And so this generation of golfers who are now in the sport are basically a bunch of Tiger Woodses. They're basically a bunch of athletic guys who, can play some really powerful golf. And that's how he changed the game. He played against a bunch of younger versions of him. Obviously not the exact same thing, but like still pretty close. And
they
he came
idolized
out on
him
top.
their whole lives too. And
right.
I think the moment that was, greater than the golf itself was being with his son afterwards, being with his dad in '97, Earl, and then being with his son in the exact same spot basically.
Yeah.
Off the 18th green. That was just. It's just. I really no words for that. Honestly,
no words.
It's just great
for sure. And so this version of Tiger,
just great for the game.
This version of Tiger played this like very calculated, perfect golf. And it wasn't
kind of
overly crazy. There were some exciting shots. Some of the power was coming back. You saw it on a couple tee shots, and it was kind of exciting. But like he played this different game where, first of all, he's never had to come behind to win a major. That's never happened before. Every single major he's won, he's been on top all the way through. He just dominates. That's the way he used to play. And now he played this different game where, the big breaking point, of course, was, when hasn't this been the breaking point at the Masters? It was 12 when everybody hits in the water and he's the only one who makes it through. I mean, that's just a different Tiger we've seen. But the thing that carries over, I think, is the part that I think people in general love about him the most, which is his crazy focus that I don't think any other athlete has. It's crazy how he can
lock in just for
and he
the whole
showed
day.
absolutely no emotion until the end of that whole thing, which is absolutely crazy. And that was definitely not true for me. I wrote a huge article on this. This was exciting, but as a young golfer, I did not have dry eyes after seeing that happen. Let's just say that. So it was a huge moment. But so I think we should probably move on to Tiger Woods coming up here, because we brought that up, and I think one of the cool things about Tiger is that he's a golfer, and the thing about golfing is your career is insanely long. We're not talking about NFL players. We're not even talking about we're not talking about any sport here. This is golf where you can have a crazy long career. So all of a sudden he's come back. He's 43, which seems old considering how young he was.
Right. How old was Jack Nick? Was he 40? He's in his upper 40s. I know Jack when
Yeah,
he won
he
the
was-
Masters.
when he won in 86.
86. I think
Yeah,
it was
when
like
he won in
48 or
86,
something
he
around
was
there.
like 48, and he's
40,
the
yeah.
he's the oldest, and Tiger's the second oldest. But
Mhm.
I mean, he's still, in the grand scheme of things, of people who are on the tour, he's still. I mean, there's a huge younger generation, but he's still pretty young, and he's still got some time on him where he could make things happen potentially. And people are already calling it. I'm not entirely secure, but I think that if there's any year for him to do it, it's this year, because he's got perfect year for golf considering that they moved the PGA up. That's especially exciting because my golf season usually ends with the British Open. I don't even watch the PGA, to be honest. It's too late. I don't even watch it. It's not that super exhilarating. It's not like the biggest tradition of all time. So to move that up, and then all of a sudden, your immediate thought after he won is like, whoever has the network rights to the U.S. Open has to be losing their minds. But then I realized, wait, the next major isn't basically like it was. We're within a month. We're like 2 days within a month now already.
Wow.
And
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. So the PGA Championship
Never
is
was
coming
that
out
close.
in May, and it's at Bethpage Black where he's already won. He won in 2002. It was a U.S. Open that year, and I read an article. The course is already bracing for Tiger Mania because party's starting now. It's gonna be crazy.
It's gonna be, it's just for the
But,
sport.
I mean,
like you said,
it's perfect for golf because
It's perfect.
they're gonna stay engaged now because all of a sudden the next major is only is in less than a
away.
month. That's crazy. So that's super exciting. And then so he's got that, and then he's got the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. And if you're in any way have ever followed Tiger, you should know what happened at Pebble Beach. I talked about in my article the greatest Tiger moments for me personally, but I think the greatest Tiger moments of all time, and I think that the only thing that what happened on Sunday falls short of, is his performance at Pebble Beach to win the U.S. Open, where it was totally Tiger versus golf, and he I mean, I don't remember what his final score was, but he went record low. It was insane.
Yeah.
And that was a shocker to everybody who played the game. And so I think that that's his number one moment. They're coming back to Pebble Beach this year to play the U.S. Open again. So it's like, here's another opportunity. So I think that he's got a pretty
It's just come
decent
full
year.
circle.
It's a pretty decent year set up for him. I mean, he could make something happen, and I think Stephen A. Smith went out and just said it. He's gonna win He's gonna win his way back up to the top and past Jack Nicklaus. But I mean, I don't know if I'm willing to go so far out to make that statement. I'm not that bold. But I mean, I do get the philosophy that he's won one, so now it's off. Now the hypothetical monkey's off his back, and he could go crazy now. But yeah, I mean, it's just he won against a loaded field, which is just what's so crazy about this.
Yeah, not even depending. I guess I'll just kind of wrap it up. I guess not even depending how well he plays the rest of his career. Honestly, like if he can go out, now he can go out with that
Right,
final
well,
getting
I mean,
back on the
that's
top
what
of
we were
the
talking about last
hill.
week.
Like it's like you said, it's just be able to go from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs. Then being there with his son and his daughter.
Right.
It's just
his
there's
son
no
was the
words for
best,
that.
Just walking with him the entire time. That was great.
Yeah, that was.
And I mean,
the walk of a lifetime, I guess.
Just to imagine him, because he never saw who his dad was. Like, he's probably lived his entire life hearing this from other people of your dad is one of the greatest golfers of all time, but he's never actually seen it. And so to actually have that moment that he's actually that he's watched on YouTube for years and years and years actually happened to him in real life, and the fact that that his kids were even there, his family was even there. I mean, his daughter lost a state championship in soccer the day before, and he was trying to cheer him up and ask them to come out to Augusta to watch him play. Just but they could have totally not been there, and they were there, and then they had that moment, and that was unbelievable.
And the son was like, the only thing he wanted this year was he like wrote down like one of his. I think in school he said. So I want my dad to win just a tournament in golf, and then it's turned up it's the Masters.
It turns out it's a major, and then it turns out it's probably the most iconic major in Tiger Woods' career. Tiger I think in my opinion most ties to the Masters than everything. But yeah, I mean, so
5 green jackets now. So
5 green jackets. It's just it's so surreal. I don't know. I think it's story of the year. It's it's one of the stories of a lifetime for me. I mean. I haven't thought about this too deeply, but I mean, I've said it over and over, so I guess I'm pretty secure on this at this point. I think it's probably number 2 greatest sports moment I've ever seen behind the Cubs winning the World Series. I think that
I have to agree.
It's those two. I mean, it's
yeah.
just unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, do you have anything else to add at this point? I think
we basically covered it, but
we covered it.
We could keep talking about this all day.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, we could talk about this forever, but yeah, I hope that does that for you guys. You know, we're thankful that we got to witness such an amazing story. And so we're excited to see what he's got in store for us next, because all of a sudden, you know, the Tiger effect is a real thing, and all of a sudden golf becomes crazy exciting going forward. So we're looking forward to that PGA Championship. But yeah, that's our special edition of Show Me What You Got, and let's move on to news. So later on, I'm going to talk to Mark Smirnov about the Stanley Cup Playoffs. I talked to him before on Let's It Down, and we'll show that to you guys later when that time comes on the show, of course. And we talked about the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and basically I gave my opinion on this, but I'm looking for yours because it's such a big story. The Tampa Bay Lightning, after winning a record-tying 62 wins, got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets on Tuesday night. So this is such a heartbreaker that even the Lightning sent out a tweet apologizing to their fans. So what are your thoughts on the development on this development in regards to how it affects both the Bolts and the Cup race?
Yeah,
this is crazy.
First, I'll just give you a historic perspective. I'm sure you have seen this already, but the teams with the most wins in a single season, I guess, they've not had success historically.
Yeah.
So I'll give some examples. 2001 Mariners, 116 wins, 46 losses. Title. No, they lost to the Yankees in the ALCS that year. Then the Patriots, of course, they were 16-0 in 2007.
That's a
lost to
classic
the New York
example.
Giants. Of course, the famous catch in that game. And then we have the 2015-16 Warriors. Of course, the 73-win team to pass the Chicago Bulls. 72-win team, and of course they lost to the Cavs and blew that 3-1 lead. And I can't go without saying you're the 95-96 Red Wings.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that the Red Wings are quite familiar with the curse that the President's Cup brings, or the President's Trophy brings when you win the most wins in a regular season.
Yeah.
But yeah, that title did not happen when it probably should have. So
yeah, and I was blinking on the name David Tyree. I just couldn't think of the name for the Patriots game and the Giants,
Right.
but of course the phenomenal David Tyree, the helmet catch. But
yeah, legendary.
yeah. Then this year, to get back, I guess this year to 2018 Lightning, of course they had 62 wins to tie the Red Wings, but of course a first round exit, got swept. But it's just remarkable, Joey. I think history now is in their favor for the Blue Blue Jackets from Columbus. Teams that have gone on to sweep a one seed have had success historically.
I mean, that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Of course the momentum, but I mean, I think this is actually pretty good for the sport because
it's amazing.
It opens it up.
This is what we were talking about with the division system. In both with me and Shaw in the preview, I think we've talked about it before, but I mean, while it doesn't lead to the best second, third round, conference finals, Stanley Cup final matchups, the first round matchups in the Stanley Cup playoffs are now super exciting. So, I mean, this is living up to it, and little did we know this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
the thing is,
this is crazy.
With the other teams, like the Mariners, like I said, the Mariners, Patriots, Warriors, all those teams made deep playoff runs in their respective seasons, and which is more astonishing for this is it was they got swept in the very first round. This wasn't like they were in the Stanley Cup Finals after winning the 62 games to tie the record for the most wins in a single season. This was the very first round, and that's what just makes it even more astonishing after winning the President's Cup. Of course, the curse that we all serviced, I guess.
The crazy part is Steve Yzerman, who, by the way, ditched the Lightning before this happened. But, when he was playing for the Red Wings and he was on this team, I mean, he was the one who started the whole tradition of not touching the other trophies before the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, really.
So, there's some history behind that. So,
yeah. So, of course, I'm just going to share here.
Yeah.
So, the three other teams I'm talking about is the 95 Devils defeated the Red Wings, the 98 Oilers defeated the Flames, and 1970 the Bruins defeated the Blackhawks. Those are the three other teams that have gone on after sweeping a one seed to go on to win the Stanley Cup. So definitely history's in their favor. Of course,
history's in their favor, and
the momentum they have now is.
We know the President's Cup curse, but I think that the thing that's so crazy about this is that they did not win one game.
After being up 3-0 in the first game, it was just straight downhill.
I love John Cooper. He's a great coach, and I struggle to say this, but over time. I'm starting to think more and more that he might need to go. I mean, there's nothing else. There's nowhere else that you put the blame. And I don't necessarily think he might go just because of this performance. But what he said about it was just the defense. Basically the excuses he had were just ridiculous. I mean, he basically said, when you win this many games, then games don't start to matter afterwards, and then all of a sudden it's hard to get motivated again to play the playoffs when they had the greatest motivation of all time.
I don't get it.
And they lost to the Capitals last year so dramatically. I mean, they had so much fuel to that fire, and they didn't use it. And the other thing, I mean, the other team wanted it more. All the excuses that were used were ridiculous, and that's what's starting to make me more and more think that he might need to go. I mean, that's how this is the Lightning's year, and they totally blew it.
You have to want it more
completely.
than what they showed. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a more colossal failure. I mean, I could see them losing this series, as President's Cup teams are doing, but
not winning a game.
Not
It's a
winning a
different
game,
story.
getting swept, that's crazy. So, yeah, crazy story.
But yeah, okay, Joey. So now we're going to move on to the NFL. Of course, big story this week was Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks agreed to a 4-year, $140 million contract, which includes $75 million guaranteed, $65 million signing bonus per Adam Schefter, becoming the NFL's highest paid player. So, Joey, how does this look for the rest of the NFL and the Seahawks and Wilson himself?
This is interesting. I think that from Seattle's perspective, it kind of makes somewhat sense, albeit that he is overpriced considering the type of quarterback that he is and the role that he's had on the team lately. But, I mean, I think that it's a little bit more justified once you realize that kind of Russell Wilson has been the one consistent face of the Seahawks. So that kind of makes sense. From a Russell Wilson perspective, I mean, I guess somewhat, but, I mean, it's in considering the contract, I mean, obviously. Yeah. But, I mean, I don't know. I think that considering where that was headed and considering all the negotiations, I was a little bit surprised to see this. But then again, if you had asked me not that long ago, I would have been expecting that there would be this kind of lifetime deal with a guy like Russell Wilson, considering the way that he looks for the Seahawks.
I think that also based on, the Legion of Boom being, of course, the mass exit there on the defensive side, Earl Thomas, of course, Richard Sherman, all the players that were a part of that, the famous Super Bowl winning team, the Legion of Boom, and now they're all gone, of course. But
they're basically all gone. That's why Russell Wilson's kind of
the fixture, of the franchise, and that's what makes it even more impressive for him.
Right.
Even though, I think the Seahawks, of course, last year they were a team that were just going to run the ball 40 times a game, and that's probably going to continue. But to have a leader like Russell Wilson, and
now that they've paid him this much money, they might need to find a way,
because he definitely
find
can
a way to use him more.
Yeah, he can, because
sure.
The player that he is, he can do a lot more than what they asked him for these last couple of years, or just last year especially, as he's more of a mobile quarterback. And I just think, definitely they're going to need to keep on playing to his strengths. And I think really the offense, it was boring, but they did get the job done with Chris Carson and Rashad Penny.
That's true.
But Wilson, when he did throw, he made the most out of his opportunities, with racking up a lot of touchdowns last year. But he's probably going to want to, after giving him all this money, maybe just to rethink what their game plan is going to be with him.
Yep. All right, last one for news. Despite Anthony Davis's "That's All Folks" shirt that he wore to end his 2018-19 NBA season, and some obvious waiting for the Celtics or Lakers or some other team to call to get him out of New Orleans, David Griffin has entered the chat. The new president of basketball operations for the Pelicans, who previously saw over the Cavaliers when they were making their finals runs under LeBron, and they won the 2016 NBA title, had his introductory press conference to start his career with the New Orleans Pelicans now, and he boasted his very good relationship with Clutch Sports Group, which is the agency behind Anthony Davis, and indicated that unibrow time with the Pelicans may not be over. So, Michael, is there any substance to this claim, or is Davis still on his way out of the door?
I think he's still out of the door. He's kind of, by the shirt he's shown that that's all folks basically just kind of summed it up, that his mind is in a different place and he doesn't want to be in New Orleans anymore. And I think Griffin's just doing his diligence, as he can't come out right and just say, Anthony Davis is going to get traded right when I get here, and that's it. He's gone. But being in the situation that Davis has caused, I think you just can't, with his teammates, of course, in the upper management, you just can't. I don't think that you can keep he's so talented, but you just can't keep a guy like that, as we've seen in other sports too. That this kind of the toxicity, I guess, of a situation like this. It's not going to work well, and just the manufactured dilemma he started around the trade deadline is just. I think it's too much for the Pelicans to overcome.
Yeah,
and
I
think
agree.
they just have to start fresh. They still get a lot by trading him away. Of course, we saw with Antonio Brown that kind of
You can
not
pick up some stuff,
a different situation, I guess, based on being in the NFL. You really can't via trade get as much, and just he kind of said, I guess, I don't know, just there was more to it, I guess, off the field with like the social media aspect of it. Davis hasn't done any of that. It's just more been that he just wants to get traded. But I think more Antonio was more of a locker room kind of deal, being with and management. But Davis, there's still definitely a locker room. People are upset with him in the locker room, but not as much as Brown. But this is still something that you really can't overcome as a franchise. But it's definitely if they can work something out, I mean, that'll be a huge win for the Pelicans. But I just don't see something like that happening. And I just still think, just to start fresh with this for Griffin, I think the best move for him is just to move on and then just start a new chapter, I guess, for the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just think real quick, for me, ideologically, we've talked about this before. I'm not a fan of when single individual players have the amount of power that, especially in the NBA, they currently do. But the fact is that, in other words, I would hope that he would stay with the Pelicans, but the reality is just not that. I mean, the players have the amount of power that they do, and there was an article on The Onion that was titled, I think, like Adam Silver sends out memo to all the players basically saying just go wherever you want to go. And that's hilarious, but I mean there's some serious substance to that. So I mean, while I would want him to stay with the Pelicans, it's pretty obvious that will not happen, and he's just going to go where he wants to go.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think we've seen this with all sports too, just
right.
really
I mean,
people
it's
are
an
choosing
increase
now where they want to go.
It's an increase in player independence, which I think is really good. I think there's been kind of an overstep, and I'm hoping it works its way back, especially in the NBA, because at this point it's just like I need my touches and I can't listen to my coach, which drives me crazy. And then there's LeBron, obviously, who can't be coached, which is a problem. But that's just the reality of what it is right now. So given those circumstances, I don't think I think Anthony Davis is
and of course he hasn't come out
pretty much gone.
He hasn't come out and just torched the franchise like that Antonio Brown has done with the
so
Steelers.
There is that.
But it's still definitely, I remember being just thinking back of the
that's
deadline.
What you had to do.
Yeah,
but, I mean,
to get out. But going back to the deadline, I mean, you just could see that the team just fell flat on their face after that. And I don't know, I just feel like really hasn't been much. I guess they've done a pretty good job of keeping all this in-house, but there has to be disappointment from the players and just towards Davis, and especially wearing that T-shirt. Like, come on, you got just don't do that. I think.
It's at this point, he's done.
I think
so,
that just sealed it. Put the bow on it. And I think he's definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if right after the playoffs over that some deal gets made.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the end of our news, and we're gonna move into, as I previously mentioned, our Let's Sit Down segment, talking hockey with Mark Smirnov. It was just me and him earlier this week. And just before we get into it, I think I'm just going to mention this. Results from last night. Basically, the Bruins won 6-4 to tie their series with the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Stars beat the Predators 5-1 to tie their series as well. And the Avalanche beat the Flames in overtime. So now Colorado's leading 3-1 to potentially pull off that upset. So that's exciting. So those are your 3 games today, just so that you have an update going into this. This was recorded earlier. So here's Let's Sit Down. All right, welcome to Let's Sit Down. I'm sitting here with a longtime friend and guest of the show. He's back on again, as promised, to talk Stanley Cup Playoffs. Mark Smirnov, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to talk Stanley Cup playoffs, but before we get into that real quick, we both came together to write an article on the4scout.com that we thought we should just mention. In case you're one of the only people who hasn't seen it, the Star Wars Episode 9 teaser, the first teaser, just came out over the last weekend here, and it's got some people pretty excited, and at least I think has moved us pretty far considering how upset we were with The Last Jedi. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Just a 2-minute teaser that did a lot. So definitely take a look at that, and then take a look at our article here. We got a scene-by-scene breakdown, which this guy over here did. And then at the end, I have a reaction. And yeah, so it was fun writing, so thanks for doing that.
No problem. It was really cool showing or writing about what I knew about everything and about the series. And I'm excited for the movie. Like, anybody who sees this trailer, I think would have some level of excitement or anticipation for the movie. So I'm pumped.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Okay, so let's move into the Stanley Cup playoffs, which have started last week, and I think really have lived up to some serious excitement considering some of the first round results so far. So before we get into the matchups here, let's talk about something significant, which in the preview article I did with Shaw, we talked a lot about the Stanley Cup playoffs format now, and how they've switched from a simple 1 through 8 conference, you're in, versus going by divisions and wild card, which is a change that they've made decently recently, and people have had divided opinions on it. So what are you thinking about it right now?
Yeah.
Considering.
Right. So the format, it's probably the only major league that does it like this, probably, other than like.
Well, I think more and more professional sports leagues are moving towards this.
Yeah, and I know the MLB does stuff with divisions and wild card games and stuff, and but like I feel like the NBA has like kept the constant conference 1 through 8 from each conference type of thing, but it's like I don't know it. In my opinion, like we could actually take Chicago as an example. Chicago had a good run at the end of the season, and they just didn't make it because of the wild card format. And like, it makes it super competitive in the first round.
Yeah,
Which we've seen. The first round is pretty much in the middle right now of play right now in the playoffs. But the types of matchups that I think we've seen since, like, I don't know, probably 2014, 2015.
Since then.
Have been, significantly different than the type of, Chicago, Nashville types of matchups, and, the Western Conference Final, or it's just really completely different, and it just kind of, in my opinion, it screws up the second and third rounds.
I agree.
The second and third rounds is what, true hockey fans really want to see. That's where I think that's where the action is.
That keeps you in the playoffs. If you're not
exactly,
if you're not going to be engaged in the second and third rounds, then you might not carry over to the end.
Right. It's like the first round is just a lot of games on a lot of channels on TV, and the especially the conference finals. That's where the cup is near.
Right.
You're getting closer.
Eventually, individual teams start to matter way more. I mean, I guess it's like the first weekend of March Madness, as far as like March Madness, the first weekend is one of the best periods in sports, just simply because there's so much to watch, and there's so much that could happen,
and so much to keep track of.
But it's not necessarily about the teams until pretty far into the tournament. It's a smaller version of the same case here. So I mean, it gets you. I think it gets you engaged with some really fun matchups and some really exciting results so far. It sets up for matchups that couldn't but won't happen. That could but won't happen in the conference finals in the second round.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, I think it's changing the way that the playoffs play out in a negative way.
Yeah, and it changes the overall play of the season. Divisions are so much more competitive. It just places, in my opinion, an unnecessary emphasis on divisions, especially. And for hockey, that's intense, and it's kind of an attempt. And the NHL is constantly trying to really emphasize and really make games into rivalries.
Right.
And sometimes you don't need that. Rivalries just kind of
rivalries should happen.
Rivalries,
they should be spontaneous.
Yeah.
I mean, at least in my opinion.
Exactly. And the whole thing with the divisions is cool, especially how, like I think like 2 seasons ago, they used it to really create the framework around the All-Star game.
Right.
So that was cool.
That was cool. And that the All-Star game format, at least across pro sports, has not been that engaging, and so that was something completely new.
Absolutely.
That added something to watch.
So that for sure had a benefit.
Right.
But in terms of creating competition during the season with the standings, it's a little bit too much, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that the divisions, there's been so many alignment changes in the league for such a long period of time that consistent divisions that lead to rivalries haven't really been happening yet. So to jump right into a division system, it kind of creates some issues with that. So it's a lot of new rivalries that you have to build, which if you do it forcibly, it's probably not going to work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And the amount of games that you play each team, you play each division team like 4 times, I think.
Right.
And the Hawks play the Red Wings or
right.
Eastern Conference teams twice.
Right.
It's just it has a weird effect
talking
on
about
the season.
That alignment, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you have 5 5 original 6 teams in the Eastern Conference, and then the one that gets left out is left with all the hard teams, but none of really the fun teams, because I mean, we're going to go through the Eastern Conference first, and these are all very, very fun teams to watch and fun teams to play.
Yeah.
And then the Western Conference has a bunch of contenders.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as just historic matchups, it's probably not up there with the Eastern Conference. So
yeah. So my overall opinion is that it does have its benefits, and it's actually interesting to keep track of during the season.
Yeah.
It's just a lot to look at in terms of just a spreadsheet of all the teams.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have a negative effect on playing and competition during the season, and it has kind of a negative chain reaction during the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move into each matchup here. The big one we have to start with, considering everything, is the top team in the league and the team that they played in the first round. I'm, of course, talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Columbus Blue Jackets, in which the Blue Jackets won in a sweep last night, and they will be playing the winners of a loaded Bruins-Leafs matchup in the second round. But, I mean, this is obviously a shocking result of it after a team that clinched the President's Cup, extremely early and won a crazy amount of games in the regular season, and now fell apart in the first round. So what are your thoughts coming out of this crazy series?
Yeah. I mean, oh boy, I think it would shock anyone in the hockey world. It should shock a lot of people in the sports world.
Right.
I mean, but Tampa tied the record for the most wins in a regular season.
Right, for sure.
You're just not. No one's expecting that, and it's just one of those giant upsets that we see from time to time in sports.
Yeah.
But they did get swept by a wild card team in the first round, and honestly, what happened with Tampa, no one really understands right now. But the reason everyone is shocked is because of this record that they set going into the playoffs, and they have always had a strong core, and that core was, people like Steve Yzerman are really responsible for that core.
Right.
And
he built it.
yeah,
Absolutely.
he built that core, and this year especially, and in the offseason last year, they built around that core like no team has since probably the 2013 Blackhawks.
Yeah, for sure.
And when a team has a core like that, and it has bottom two lines and bottom two D pairs like that, it's a super team, and you are just not expecting a first round sweep.
Right.
So there will be change, unfortunately, for Tampa.
Yeah,
during
there
the
will.
offseason.
I mean, it's a crazy thing to think about, but I mean, we mentioned Steve Yzerman, of course, but this more than anything else reminds me of the teams that he played for. There were a lot of Red Wings teams that won Stanley Cups during his career, and around that era where the Red Wings were so good, but there were so many teams that underperformed after winning the President's Cup, and it seemed like a thing that tended to happen a lot. So I mean, I was somewhat concerned that might just happen.
I don't know.
Because
did they touch the President's Cup?
well, I mean, no, they didn't. That's a tradition.
The curse, right?
That's a tradition that Steve Yzerman started, and they really had a tough time coming out in the playoffs successfully after winning the President's Cup. So I mean, it's something that isn't unheard of, but considering just how good this team was and how dominant this team was, it's definitely something crazy to look at and see. The Blue Jackets going into the second round.
Yeah, and in terms of change, like I'd go right to the coach, John Cooper. He's been there forever. And
built his way from the bottom as far as being a coach every single league. Yeah,
phenomenal
completely.
coach. But when you talk about a first round sweep like this, especially with this kind of team, you're thinking about the locker room mindset, and you have to place responsibility on the coach for that.
Yeah.
So if they're looking for change, they go to John Cooper. They get rid of John Cooper. But that's the one change that I would see, because I don't see a management issue here.
I don't either.
The
I think that
management
he's
did
the only
everything
place
in their
you could
power.
go, and that's kind of crazy to say considering how
This
good
is-
of a coach he is.
Yeah, this is literally the goal for management, is to get to that point, that
Right.
President's Trophy, that record-setting position
Right.
to put a team like this into.
Coaches just got to win a cup. That's it.
Yeah, and coaching management has the responsibility from there to take that team to the goal that management has set for them.
Right.
And if they don't have any success in that whatsoever, they're going to face consequences. So.
Yep. Okay, let's move on to the next one that completed here. Another fun result. The Islanders swept the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I mean, they're going to play the winner of the Capitals Hurricanes matchup, and it was something that I considered, and I took the series to 7 games in the preview, but I never really went out and picked them, but I said I was rooting for them. So this is a fun result. Just real quick, what do you think of this one?
So yeah, I didn't think it'd be a sweep, because I think the Penguins would have something in them.
Yeah,
but I did pick the Islanders.
I didn't think that either.
And I'm happy, because I'm not that much of a fan of the Penguins. The Penguins are kind of the Hawks of the East. Okay, let's just kind of admit it.
I mean, as far as just widespread, like what the fans think, completely.
There were a lot of similarities. The fans, the number of cups they won in recent seasons, and I picked the Islanders, in my bracket or whatever, because Barry Trotz is a god of a coach.
Yeah,
and
he's the main factor, in my opinion.
I had a feeling, for sure, and I had a feeling that he would craft a team, and he would take a team to beat the Penguins, especially a team like the Penguins, and they knocked them out of the playoffs last year. And Barry Trotz coached the Stanley Cup winning team of last year, the Washington Capitals. So I feel like if anyone is responsible for this sweep, it's Barry Trotz.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yep. Okay, so those are the first two results that we have that are complete in the first round, 2 sweeps. Meanwhile, everything else is pretty excitingly even here. There's only one series that could be clinched in the next game. Otherwise, it's pretty evened up. So we'll just go through the state of every series real quick. So we have Bruins Leafs, in which Toronto's leading 2-1. Their next game is going to be on Wednesday at 6. We got Caps Canes, of course, as I mentioned. Washington leads 2-1. The next game's going to be tomorrow on Thursday at 6 o'clock. In case you didn't pick this up, we're recording this on Wednesday. Flames, Avs, of course, Colorado leads 2-1. Their next game's going to be tonight at 9. Sharks, Golden Knights here. They led, the Golden Knights are leading 3-1, which is an interesting result. Next game's on Thursday at 9. Pred Stars, the Predators lead 2-1. Their next game is going to be tonight at 7. And then Jets Blues, where the series is tied after an overtime win of Winnipeg last night. And their next game is going to be tomorrow at 7:30. So just real quick, I think we should take a look at, I guess 3 teams to look out for through these matchups that should be dangerous going forward. So, I mean, who are you thinking as far as important teams to look forward to?
Okay. So I think the Hurricanes, because the Hurricanes are the Hurricanes, and like going in,
Yep.
like it, obviously, it's a tough matchup, but the Capitals were leading the Canes by
for sure,
by 2 games, but I was going into these playoffs saying that if there's going to be one upset, it's going to be the Hurricanes versus the Capitals. Capitals coming off
I picked
Stanley
that
Cup.
one too, so
Capitals,
that's one of my big ones.
Yeah. Capitals coming off Stanley Cup syndrome, and the Hurricanes were just a really good team during the year.
We've seen too many championship hangovers recently to be too confident
Sure.
with the Capitals, and they haven't done anything super explosive this year. So
Yeah,
definitely look out for the Hurricanes.
And just the Hurricanes, not necessarily even the team, just the culture that they created this year has been iconic, and they've made the playoffs for the first time in I don't know, probably since they won the Cup.
Yeah, they've partially, I think,
2006.
defined what 2018-19 NHL hockey has been.
Sure. So
they're definitely a team to look for.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else on your list here?
So I think the Flames will pull it off.
I agree.
But
I think that this is a big year for Calgary, and they got to take advantage of it.
Yes, but I think the Calgary-Colorado matchup is awesome. It's just a matchup of young talent, and Colorado really does have a really good power first line.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So that's why I just think the Flames will win from depth, but it's going to be I think they'll pull it to the brink.
Yeah, for sure. All right, one more team. Who are you looking at right now?
I think the Blues will pull it off. Yeah, okay. The Sharks and Knights is a good matchup.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of surprised that Vegas is winning. I think
I am
that Sharks
too.
experience would
Yeah.
beat them. But, all bets are off considering last year.
Yeah. Also considering that the Pacific was so, I don't know, it was not that great of a division this year outside of Calgary. So, yeah.
It's just the division emphasis.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I don't know about it, is because it didn't seem like any team wanted any other spot in the Pacific other than the spot that Calgary pretty easily secured at number 1.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Blues, as you mentioned, definitely probably be one of the biggest conversations considering how hot they are and how much people are believing in recency bias, and that series is tied right now.
For sure.
Yeah,
And, they had a tough season, and they basically were the Hawks that actually pulled off the end of the season. And it's tough because the Jets have never gotten out of the first round, and they've made the playoffs, and it's been iconic. And I just think the Blues
they faced another hot team in the Golden Knights last year, and that's what eliminated them. And it's unfortunate because Winnipeg is a fun team to have in the playoffs, considering it's a small town. The Winnipeg whiteout is a thing that is enjoyable to watch. It's one of the coolest environments.
It really is.
So it's kind of like Islanders Pens, and we saw how that went. So I think that the Blues will win, but I'm rooting pretty hard for Winnipeg here, and we'll see what happens. The series is tied right now, so
especially as Hawks fans,
right? For sure.
But the Jets are winning games. It could happen, but I think the Blues will take it.
I've been waiting for the year where the Blues really take off, and this is probably it. So,
Good.
So that's basically everything here coming out of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Definitely tune in. It's been there's been lots of exciting games so far. Very, very competitive, as we said in the first round here. So enjoy it while it lasts. It's not often where you see such a dominant overall number 1 team get eliminated in the first round. And it's not so often where you see the least liked team in America get eliminated in the first round by a small town historic franchise that could be the Cinderella story of the NHL.
Yeah,
so this is exciting.
Gary Bettman is elated.
I'm super excited about that. Yeah. In case you didn't pick it up, I don't like Gary Bettman. That's a big thing. I don't think anybody does. So
if you get it, then you won't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so that's it. Mark, thanks for being on the show. This was awesome.
Yeah,
we'll probably have you on in the future once things continue to move forward in this NHL season because it's a good playoffs this year. So.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. You guys have a great podcast, and good job, Joe.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thank you. All right, so that's it for Let's Sit Down, and we'll send it back over to the next segment here. I'm just going to mention this real quick now that we're back. Welcome back, everyone. I mentioned this a while ago, but we're still encouraging anybody who has any local music to send in for the Let's Sit Down intros to send in your music because, we've been doing a lot of themes lately, but, we'd prefer to be promoting the awesome talent that we have around us. So we're still encouraging that, just letting everybody know that offer is still out there. Still the usual way to contact us, sportscoutspodcast@gmail.com. So let's move into They Don't Scout Like This. So we're going to have a really, really quick edition of They Don't Scout Like This, considering how long our opening segment was with Tiger. But the big thing that we're going to talk about here is the NFL schedule, which came out. And, of course, it's always kind of a really, really hyped thing every year. So yeah, let's get into it. So we're gonna go with our top 3 games here. And Michael, do you want to start here with what we'll do?
Yeah, I'll take it here. So we have Green Bay, of course, at Chicago, Week 1, the season opener of the 100th season of the NFL. Thursday Night Football on September 5th. I guess I'm just gonna go down the list of it. So these are our top 3 together. So then we have I guess I'll go to Week 2 one first. So we have New Orleans at Los Angeles in Week 2, Sunday afternoon of September 15th, and of course that's the rematch, of course, from last year of that huge controversial call.
Yeah, we're gonna
not calling the PI in that game, and
we're gonna see the New Orleans Saints go down into Los Angeles this time, and we'll see what happens.
Different venue, but same teams. And then finally, the Kansas City Chiefs are gonna be at New England, Week 14, Sunday afternoon on December 8th. So
that's another
AFC championship. Yep.
Yeah, that's the rematch. Also, it's gonna be huge for. Just
Chiefs, especially. I think.
Yeah, for the Chiefs, especially just setting up their spots for the playoffs. I think this is going to be a big deal. I feel like
no Gronk too in this game.
Yeah, the Chiefs have been disappointing. Not necessarily to their own fault, just because the Patriots are who they are, and so they're just desperately, I think, in my opinion, and rightfully, I hope that they eventually get there, but they're just waiting for that chance to break through.
I think this is definitely the year for them.
And so this year. That matchup is going to be especially interesting. And then, so one other one that I want to mention, just looking into, kind of the crucial weeks of the season. This year for the Thanksgiving games, we got Bears-Lions this year. So there is that.
There's a lot of prime.
That's kind of how the setup works out. Yeah,
they have, I believe, so it's 2 Sunday night games, I know they have a Monday night, I think 2 Thursday nights even. Yeah. And they have the game in London. And then, of course, Thanksgiving. So
it's a crazy year for the Bears. But it's their 100th season. So
Akeem Hicks always says, I want prime time, and he's got it this year.
Yeah, he definitely has it this year. So,
but experts I've seen, like, they still really are kind of low on the Bears. They're calling them a borderline playoff team, which I don't really get.
Yeah, I don't know.
Of course, we're biased.
I kind of love this team. But
we're biased, but like, still, just look at the roster. There's no holes on the team at all.
I mean, I'm biased toward my favorite team, but I'm also biased toward a team that plays like a college team when they're in the NFL, which is pretty cool. I love the way that they play the game.
Just the cohesiveness, I guess, between the players. It's just you just don't see that really in any, like we just saw, like you just said, in the NBA. Of course, guys just want to get their max deal, get their whatever 40 touches a game.
But there's an unprecedented team presence on this team, which I just love.
And I mean, in this modern era of sports, it's kind of gone by the wayside. I think and the team play really is just kind of fallen off. But I mean, the Bears
are an exception.
Bears are one of those exceptions. Yeah. So should we talk about, I guess?
Yeah, we're going to talk about this real quick.
Yep.
One of the things I noticed recently, just looking at like the Monday Night Football schedule and some of the primetime schedules, lots of questionable teams are being put on these primetime spots.
Yeah.
And one of the main ones, I do think that there's reason for this though, is of course everybody's favorite Cleveland Browns. They're going to be.
I'm looking forward to the Browns.
They're going to be on primetime. They're going to be put in
Four
front.
times. I
So
think.
obviously, they have Odell now. They have kind of an exciting year going in, and probably the most exciting year they've had in such a long time as far as hype
That's
goes.
the playoff year.
Yeah,
2001 or 2.
This has got to be it. Yeah. So I mean, do you think this is going to be good, or this is going to be bad for ratings, considering who the Browns are?
I think it's going to be great for ratings, just because the Browns, like all the attention they've had these last couple of years. Of course, they've just been the lovable. I guess take the Cubs kind of old slogan. I guess lovable losers of the NFL.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just think with the turnaround, Baker Mayfield is just a very attractive figure for the sport. He's just brought so many people gravitated towards the team, and just the kind of way he walks. I mean, just the kind of cockiness, I guess, that he has. I think it's great for them, honestly.
It's
I don't
the perfect
take any
figure
offense.
that I think that the Browns need.
Yeah.
I think that they could use a little bit of
And they have the personalities to do that with Jarvis Landry. They have leaders on that team too, which they have not had in a long time. Guys like Jarvis Landry, of course, and Baker Mayfield is definitely the top of that list too. He's the perfect guy for that team. Mm-hmm. And they definitely hit a home run with that pick already.
It worked
it's
out.
Still early, of
That's
course,
for sure.
but he had even off the field. I think he's even more valuable than he is on the field, even though he's great on the field. But just the way he brings everyone together on that team. They want to be with him and they want to win, and that just elevates everyone else's game.
Yeah,
which is really I think it's gonna be a pretty special season for them.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is very, very interesting, and I feel weird saying that the Cleveland Browns, out of every franchise in sports, are going to be good for TV ratings. But I mean, like
after last year they got their first win on like a Thursday night game.
Right.
Everyone after that game, everyone wanted to watch the Browns play. It seemed like.
All of a sudden, and I'm pretty sure wasn't there this whole thing at all the Cleveland bars? They had like refrigerators that they locked
until they won the first game.
There was that. And the police department was tweeting about that afterwards, which was hilarious. But I do remember that. Hey, this is going to be, in my opinion, good, but it's going to be good in a make or break way. They have to win excitingly in the first primetime game they play. If they can just do that, then I think that they'll be fine having them on primetime. But if they fall apart,
hype is there right now. So
the hype is there. If they can maintain it for at least a little bit, they don't even have to do that well by the end of the season. Just win that first game, continue the hype through the season, and this will be a good ratings decision. So,
I think that they are I think they're the favorite to win the division, because you have the Steelers that have been a nightmare. The Ravens, they've lost a lot of key pieces on their defense, like C.J. Mosley.
And they were already just right in between playoff team and not playoff team. So now that they're...
And I still think Lamar Jackson's a huge question mark. I'm not sold on him personally. He's super talented.
Yeah.
Amazing legs. It's phenomenal what he can do to scramble and make plays. But the arm has been a huge problem for him. And the fumbles too, of course, with the snaps. I don't know what's been happening there. And of course, the Cincinnati Bengals are basically nothing. So that's probably a free 2 wins.
For
and
sure.
I think, I just think the Browns really, they have a really solid defense. Just outside of the offense, of course, they have the playmakers on offense. Odell, like we said, Jarvis, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt now, of course, after he's suspended for the first half of the year. He'll be on the team so they can use him and Chubb. And then on the defensive side, a guy like Denzel Ward, they have a corner. And I just think John Dorsey, their general manager, has put together a really, really impressive bunch of players.
Considering everything,
so I think if they win 11, 12 games, I would not be surprised. I think they could be this year's Bears.
It's crazy cool to think about. I mean, I've always hoped that we could have 1 year. I just want it. I almost
Browns Super Bowl.
No, even better. Browns-Lions Super Bowl. I want a Browns-Lions Super Bowl.
I
do not think that's going to happen considering the Lions this year. But
right.
I mean, and I don't think the NFL's even going to let that happen. But like, if that actually happened, the NFL's probably going to think that TV ratings are going to hate it. But I think that that's just going to be so much fun that's going to be undeniable. I mean, it's the Cubs basically.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, so that's super exciting. But we're going to move into our next segment, which I got my phone out, so it's obvious what we're doing. It's Your Scouting. Okay, so we're going to move right into our first call because we have a lot of exciting calls this week.
Hi, Joey. This is AJ Shaw. And, JD, you want to say hello? So, Jay, what was your question for Joey? Yeah, Joey, I have a really fire hot take for you. During the NFL draft obviously next week, Dwayne Haskins really should be a wide receiver. He's got the hand so fast, and screw the arm. He's still not a wide receiver. Yeah, I think he's more of a running quarterback. So give me your thoughts on that. Thanks, Joey.
Okay, so this is a pretty fiery hot take. They're right about that.
I don't.
I don't understand it personally.
I don't see him as a receiver at all, to be honest. He really hasn't. He's not a mobile quarterback at all, so I don't really know. He's a big guy, of course, and that could be the comparison. But
I mean, I don't know. I watched them put 62 points at Michigan, and it was definitely.
And he just
not
stood there in the
Haskins
pocket and just threw the ball. So and of course he passed Drew Brees for the single season record for touchdowns.
I mean,
touchdown in a season. So I don't.
I don't know.
I don't get that.
If the Bear Down Weekly guys are going to be saying that, then I guess they're seeing something that we're not. But
yeah,
there you go.
I meant to ask him about that, but I don't see that.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Next caller.
A long-time caller, first-time listener.
Yep. Our typical long-time caller, first-time listener. Here he is.
Oh, I switched it around this week.
Carlos Zambrano, Big C.
This is a big one.
Chicago Dogs. Do you think the Chicago Dogs have the best roster in the independent series? And then also, do you think the Chicago Dogs could beat the Cleveland Browns in Uconn women's basketball team?
Okay, so the second part of that question, obviously, we kind of answered that in the previous segment, so we don't have to continue with that. As far as UConn women's basketball, I think UConn women's basketball is decently strong, and has a dynasty together. And I think that the Chicago Dogs have to build their dynasty before they can consider beating them. But I mean, this is obviously a hilarious story that I think we all saw, and we were all looking forward to this call happening. So I mean, yeah. So Chicago Dogs. Just picked up Carlos Zambrano, who's trying to make a comeback here and trying to build his career back. So, I mean, that's super exciting. We're going to see, a former Cub who we're familiar with pitching in Rosemont. So,
this is the
look
piece,
forward to that.
This is the piece for the Dogs dynasty, the final
piece.
piece.
This is what they need. So, if they can, hey, maybe if he stays, if he gets really good for 1 year, but he stays just bad enough where he won't be, called anywhere.
Yeah, to get any calls.
If he doesn't get any calls, but he's still extremely good, the top level of good you can be without getting any calls, maybe the Chicago Dogs can put a dynasty together. I don't know.
Maybe.
But,
I mean,
that's exciting.
That'll be. I personally want to go to a game to see when he pitches.
I kind of want to go. Why not? I mean,
just to see. I mean, hopefully there's no other. Hopefully, which Butch Hobson, of course, the manager. He's a very passionate guy, and then of course we have Zambrano there too.
Yeah.
Those are two very
Those
fiery
are two
guys.
very passionate guys.
So
You're right.
If something were to go wrong in that game, I'm actually kind of printing it does.
Yeah.
That some bad call gets made, and then
some
you see Hobson on the field,
broken.
and Zambrano just taking a bat to the Gatorade. I think the Gatorade cooler. I think that's definitely worth going to see a game there. Of course, the Dogs are great to see without the Big Z, but now with Big Z, I think
it's crazy.
You just got to go see him.
It's super exciting.
I'm excited for Big Z actually.
Considering, tickets are cheap. Why not? I mean, it's baseball. It's not as far away. I mean, we're fans of the Cubs. The downside of the Cubs though is that their ticket prices are crazy. It's probably, I'm pretty sure it's next to the Red Sox. It's the most expensive in Major League Baseball. So I mean, why not go to see some former Cubs play for the Chicago Dogs? So that's awesome.
Why not? Right in Rosemont.
Yeah. All right. One last call here. That is already. It's crazy how familiar we've become with these voices. All right, here you go.
Long time listener, first time caller. I'd just like to file a complaint that Jay DeCoster has been stealing takes.
Ooh.
I will answer this one.
Yeah, take it.
Smith said that Dwayne Haskins should switch to wide receiver, more of a running quarterback, which I somewhat agree with. But Jay DeCoster, I informed Jay of that take, and he stole it and ran with it and reported to your show. So I'd like to file a restraining order that Jay never be
wow. Okay.
to be on the Forest Scout in the first place, or in general, especially the Bear Down Weekly podcast. He should not be on the Forest Scout, and he should not have taken take any of his calls, and in fact should block his number, as he is just a very just lacks integrity, and us big J journalists, and he should not be allowed to use this platform to express his stolen takes. Thank you.
Yeah. So
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Personally, of course, we just answered Jay and Shaw with their call-in, but I don't agree with either one of you for the Dwayne Haskins comparison to the being a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But if Jay stole the take, then I guess Peters go back. We answered your question, not
And
Jay's.
even Stephen A.
But
Smith said it. And
even
if
Stephen
we know
A.
anything in this country is we listen to Stephen A. Smith when it comes to takes. Definitely hasn't fallen apart for him,
Yeah.
especially on certain couple days ago. If you guys aren't watching, I just pointed to my TW hack.
Yep.
So, yeah.
He was not a believer in Tiger.
Yeah, it's kind of a visual podcast right now. But yeah, so Peter, just to talk to you real quick, just to address you, just to let you know, Jay did leave the question for the show, as you just heard. But the issue is it was on Shaw's phone, so therefore we can't block him without blocking Shaw, and we wouldn't want to block Shaw. So there's nothing we can do about that. But the other exciting thing is, I think it's just the perfect time to announce that Jay DeCoster will be our next guest on the show next week.
Excited to have Jay. He's always wanted to come on.
So we're
he's getting
finally
his shot.
we've been hyping this up for weeks. We're finally going to get to talk about NFL draft stuff. And he'll be on the show, considering he's with the Bear Down Weekly. It'll be a good time to talk about it. So look forward to that, and then hopefully we can get Carson and Peters on the show to react soon after. So
long time callers, first time listeners will be on. So
it'll be
or first
fun
time
to-
listeners, long time callers.
Yeah, however they
Whatever they said. Yeah.
whatever they say, they generally go both ways. But it should be some exciting shows coming up. So, yeah, that was your scouting. As always, leave your questions, 224-544-9330. Anybody can send you your questions. Glad to see some new callers, obviously, making some serious impact considering Jay's call. But, so make sure to send in your questions, and you'll be right on the show. So that's always exciting. So let's move on to Just Wait Till Next Week. So, for me, other than Jay and the NFL draft, which is going to be exciting, I'm looking forward to see some more exciting results out of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. We didn't mention it, just us, but, Islanders just swept the Pens. So, I didn't think that was going to happen. I wrote that it wasn't going to happen in the preview, and I picked the Pens in 7. But, I was looking forward to see the Islanders win because they're the absolute amazingly awesome Cinderella team. And also, I just don't like Gary Bettman, and I know that he probably doesn't like this result. So,
Right.
He's probably fuming right now, and I love it. So, there's that. And I'm looking forward to seeing that continue. And so hopefully we'll see something interesting out of the NBA playoffs, and we'll get into more NBA playoffs coverage soon. But of course, as I mentioned, biggest thing on the sports calendar coming up here, PGA Championship, Bethpage Black, less than a month away. Tiger Mania is on its way out to New York, so I'm super excited for that. Michael, what are you looking forward to coming out?
Of course you said with Jay next week, but the NFL draft, of course, starting next Thursday. So we'll be recording probably next Thursday in the morning.
Yeah.
So we're gonna unwrap some rumors that have been swirling around this week, which is gonna happen this week, and then we're gonna break down our picks. We can do maybe like a little mock draft of maybe first 5 or first 10 picks.
For
what we
sure.
kind of want to do. We can do a whole NFL draft section, I guess, next week, and looking forward to that. And of course,
Can't wait.
Tiger Mania. I'm just excited for that.
I'm just so excited, man.
And-
I don't know. As a young golfer, it's just Tiger Woods. There's nothing really else you have to say. He's just
Yep. You just
I mean,
can't describe it. You got
and
to just watch it.
considering, we can't obviously look into it and speak for everything personally, but it seems like he's gotten himself back together. So the comeback really is a full and exciting one, and it's great to see superstars like that get humbled. And he was clearly humbled, and now he's seems
Back on the
like
top.
a new more personal Tiger to watch. So
And also
super exciting.
And also the Cubs. Probably talk about, they're 8-9 now. Of course, they
They swept the Marlins. So hey,
3-game win streak now.
Yeah.
I guess the pitching has been the starting pitching has been phenomenal since Lester has gone
that's
down.
been what's been holding them together lately.
So cross our fingers that continues.
Yeah.
And once we get Lester back, we can just keep the train rolling here in the bullpen. And of course, the Marlins aren't the caliber of team that we're going to be playing in the future, I guess, with the teams in our division like the Cardinals or Milwaukee. But definitely, it's a baseball team. It doesn't matter who they're playing. It's still a Major League Baseball game, even though the Marlins aren't too good. But it's the positive direction that we wanted to see. And just being a game under 500, the Diamondbacks this next series take 2 out of 3 there, and we're back over 500.
They
so
gotta, just keep on moving and keep on improving. So, yeah, that's all we got today. Congratulations for sticking through, as always, listening to this whole thing. We appreciate it. Subscribe to Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, or Radio Public. Hopefully still waiting on even more, but, we're already pretty spread out, so that's awesome. Make sure to give us a positive review on there. Leave 5 stars for us. It really helps getting the show out there. Subscribe to Watch on YouTube. Another video will be coming out. Another video version of this will be coming out. Where are we at this point when it comes to our goal? We do have, and last time I checked, we have 6 subscribers, so that's way better than 0. We're on our way. But
Right,
we are
we're getting
still
up there.
We're still at this point we are 94 million behind. So we're
almost there.
We're not on pace, but we're almost there. We're gonna get
We're getting there.
End of the year goal is still in place. And of course, as always, read the Forest Scout. A lot of good articles. Of course, I wrote the Tiger article, as I mentioned, which I was super excited about. It wasn't something I was planning to do, but as soon as I saw it and I was, crying in my basement watching this happen, I was like, I just have to make this happen because it's just too awesome of a sports story. There's that. There's Bear Down Weekly this week. Look forward to that. Connor Clark has a Cubs article that's kind of starting to become out of date at this point, considering how well they're doing. And then Stephen Young has NBA playoffs first round preview. So get ready for another week of Sports Scouts next week. And in the meantime, we'll keep on scouting.